Hey, Grace Church. This is your senior pastor, Tim Howie. And today is Wednesday, April 22nd. It's about midday. And I want you to know, man, I'm thinking about you, and I love you, and I miss you. And I pray for you literally every single morning. Pray for our staff every single morning, my family, myself, Grace Group. But the thing I'm praying for you every single morning is that God helps you live out the Great Commandment and Great Commission and really be an outward focused follower of Jesus. Like I pray for you every single morning that you would love God more than anything in the world, that you would truly love your neighbor as yourself. I pray that you would be inspired and care deeply about reaching people far from God in our city, in our county, in neighboring counties in the world. I pray every morning for you that you would be engaged in the disciple-making vision Jesus shared, the Great Commission, that you would engage in going in all the world and preaching the gospel to every creature, every person, reaching every nation. So, this is day 30. Welcome to day 30. This is the original end of the 30-day coronavirus stay-at-home order. And we know Johnson County extended that order locally to match up with the state of Kansas through Sunday, May 3rd. So as of today, we have 11 days left. So I want to give you two quick updates. One about the church and some possible reopening scenarios that I had some conversations with our staff in our staff meeting today. And then a personal side, a funny story, and a devotional moment. So church, funny story, a devotional moment. So regarding the church. So if you watch governmental entities these days, you're reading the news, you know that many of them are reopening in a phased manner. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3. Maybe it's a couple weeks for each or different timelines. And they place different entities in each of those buckets. And so we're anticipating that next week, Lord willing, earlier the better for planning purposes, but next early to midweek, we'll have some more guidance around that May 3rd end of the stay-at-home order. And is it just released? Are there phases? Are we phased in? Where does the church fit in the phasing? Are there parameters around meeting when we start meeting again? And so there's an interesting article I shared with our staff. You can look it up. It was published at the Wichita Eagle and published at the Kansas City Star. It was published Saturday, April 18th. And it was regarding, there was two rural churches in Kansas who sued the governor of Kansas about their ability to meet together. And so they actually won. Judges ruled in their favor. But as part of the declaration, they were going to implement these 24 different protocols as they met. So it wasn't like church as usual. It was still church live, but implemented differently to ensure social distancing. That's what it's called. It's actually not social distancing. It's physical distancing of 6 feet or more. And so I kind of cast some vision about what if. We don't know what the government's going to ask various businesses, including the church, to do when we gather. But if you read that article, you can find that article by Googling 4 words. Google the number 24, protocols, Kansas and churches. Number 24, the 24 protocols, Kansas churches. There you're going to find that article. And there are some interesting things that who knows if they do these things or not. But things like creating a separate entrance and exit for your church. So maybe, one door you enter the church, and then one door you enter the worship area, but you have to leave another door, and then leave the building another door. So that's one of the things that they talked about. So we were talking about what if scenario if these things are actually issued that way. So it's interesting. Read, check it out. We should know more, Lord willing, by early to mid next week, and then we'll be processing and share with you how we're responding within those guidelines. That's the church update. A funny story. So I had my first and only, to my knowledge, COVID-19 dream or nightmare. I think it's funny. It's a dream. It's not a nightmare. So in my dream, I entered a room And there was one of our fantastic leaders, volunteers, Jeannie Euler. You know Jeannie Euler, a fantastic leader and volunteer at Grace. And I saw her. And you know, you walk in the door and somebody's just right there. And so we did a hug, a side hug. And I remember in my dream thinking to myself, or maybe even it said in my dream, wait, we need to be 6 feet apart. And my dream ended. So that was my COVID-19 dream. The only dream I can think of that I've had so far. A devotional moment. Really had an amazing extended time with God on Monday morning. So I was still processing the message from this past weekend. You know, we talked this past weekend from 2 Corinthians 12, where sometimes the best thing God can say is no. Like, it would be a horrible world if everything we asked for, God said yes to. It'd be horrible for our kids, with us as parents. No one needs to hear yes all the time. But sometimes the best thing we can hear is no. So I was processing that, and even how Paul talked about celebrating his lack. It's 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, where he says, "Therefore, most gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities," or it's translated literally weaknesses. I'll boast in my weaknesses or needs, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. So I had that in my mind. I was processing on Monday. Then my mind drifted back to a fantastic book called How Full Is Your Bucket? I don't know if you ever got that book or read it. It's a very short read. There's some great principles in there, by the way. And I was thinking about the concept of the bucket, that we all have different relationship buckets or financial buckets. And here's my 2 illustrations, my Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat examples. In areas that we're strong and we have plenty, that little gap at the top, that's our trust level. And Paul says he didn't rejoice in that because he didn't need to trust God as much. God's already provided. But it's in these areas when you have very little and God comes through. Like, that's when we rejoice. And actually spent some time with God, got some real practical ways where I was engaging, even this week, being thankful for what I don't have, thankful for what's not in me. Sometimes you feel like this, like you have nothing left. And that is the moment that God can move. So, appreciate you guys. Love you. Hope to see you soon. See you this weekend at visitgracechurch.com.